Greetings, modern managers and builders of tomorrow's enterprises. Welcome to today's Explainer. Now, for our time together today, I want you to kind of think of me as a wise, ancient chronicler of the Anatolian steppes. We're going to unroll the dusty scrolls of history and dive into a true masterclass in leadership. We are looking at the legendary founder of the Ottoman Empire, Osman Gazi, and we're going to examine his life not just as a historical conquest, but as a timeless blueprint for management, mentorship, and building a truly lasting legacy.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because the central question we're looking at today is just, well, it's truly staggering. Imagine a 23-year-old taking the reins of a tiny, modest startup clan back in the year 1281. Yet, the foundations he poured were so impeccably strong that his enterprise would go on to reign for 6 centuries across 3 entire continents. I mean, how do you create a massive cross-continental legacy from such humble beginnings? What were his management secrets? Let's turn the page and find out.
To map out our journey, we'll be reading from what I like to call the 5 scrolls of leadership. First, Portrait of a Fair Founder. Second, Consulting the Wise Mentor. Third, A Vision for the Enterprise. Fourth, Scaling the Ottoman Operations. And finally, The True Leader's Legacy.
All right, let's unroll that first scroll, Portrait of a Fair Founder. Before we can really wrap our heads around the empire, we have to understand the CEO who built it. Born in 1258 in the town of Sogut to Ertugrul Gazi and Jaime Sultan, Osman Gazi inherited the foundations of the Kayi clan. But, as we know, leadership isn't just inherited, it's embodied. Osman possessed this incredibly commanding physical presence. He was tall, had a round face, dark complexion, hazel eyes, and thick eyebrows. Broad shoulders and a long upper body, all topped by a red Khorasan piece in the Chakadeh style. But, you know, a strong physical presence is absolutely nothing without the character to match it. He was a brilliant rider and fencer, sure, but more importantly, he was fair, brave, and gracious. He was a true servant leader. He helped the poor constantly, sometimes literally taking off his own clothes to give to those in need. Just the ultimate fair-minded founder.
So how exactly does a 23-year-old manager practically establish team morale when he takes over a group like the Kayi clan in 1281? Well, for Osman, it was through culture and radical generosity. Every single midday, he provided a lavish meal to all the people in his house. He fed his team, he clothed the poor, and it was through this radical generosity and bravery that he actually earned the surname Black. Now, to our modern ears, that might sound a little ominous, but according to ancient Turkoman tradition, black signifies the brave and heroic. In fact, the ancient Oghuz name text notes this exact same heroic epithet was given to other great rulers too, like Kara Yusuf of the Karakoyunlus and Kara Uluk Osman Bey of the Akyunulus.
Let's turn to our second scroll, Consulting the Wise Mentor.
Because look, no matter how brave or gracious you are as a young founder, literally no one builds an empire in isolation. Smart leaders know exactly what they don't know, and they actively seek out wise counsel. Enter Sheikh Edebali. Think of the sheikh as the chairman of Osman's advisory board. Edebali was a famous Ahi sheikh, leading a dervish group that met in Eskişehir Sultanonu. Osman deeply appreciated Edebali's opinions. He didn't just casually ask for advice, he sought it out, frequently traveling to be a guest at Edebali's house. Osman respected him immensely, modeling that absolutely vital managerial trait of submitting to wise mentorship.
Which perfectly tees up our third scroll, A Vision for the Enterprise.
It was actually during one of these strategic retreats, staying as a guest in Sheikh Edebali's Durgah, that the ultimate corporate vision for the Ottoman state was conceived. As the sun shined the morning after his stay, Osman went to his mentor and recounted this absolutely magnificent dream. Osman said, "My sheikh, I saw you in my dream. A moon appeared in your breast. It rose, and then descended into my breast. From my navel there sprang a tree. It grew up and turned green. It branched out and got complicated. The shadow of its branches covered the whole world. What does my dream mean?" As a modern manager, think about that. Think of it as the most ambitious, breathtaking corporate vision statement ever drafted. A tree whose branches cast a shadow protecting the whole world.
So the crucial point here is how this wise mentor interpreted such a bold vision. After a bit of silence, Sheikh Edebali delivered the strategic roadmap. First, he declared that God had granted divine sovereignty to Osman and his lineage. Second, the dream meant that the whole world would be under the protection of his son's rule.
a literal mission of global protection. And third, the moon passing between them signified a strategic alliance. Adibali gave his own daughter to be Osman's wife.
Let's look at how this succession planning and alliance building practically unfolded. From this incredibly fortuitous event, Osman married Rabia Bala Hatun, Bala Sultana, the Sheikh's daughter. She became the mother of Aladdin. He also married Mel Hatun, the daughter of the famous Omar Bey, which expanded his advisory network even further. Mal Sultan gave birth to Arhan, who would ultimately succeed the throne. And through these strategic marriages, Osman built a robust family enterprise, which also included his other children, Pazarli, Koban, Hamid, Ali, Melik, Savji, and his daughter Fatma Sultan.
All right, let's unroll our fourth scroll, Scaling the Ottoman Operations.
Now, as we all know, a vision is just a dream without execution. We have to see exactly how Osman scaled this startup clan into a sovereign state through steady operational milestones. He took over the Kayyi clan in 1281. By the Islamic year 699, which is 1299 AD, he achieved a massive milestone, the conquest of the fortress of Bilecik. This caught the attention of Aladdin Kikubat, the Seljuk ruler of Rum. Recognizing Osman's growing operational success, the Seljuk rulers sent him the official insignia of sovereignty, a horsetail, a standard, and a drum. With that, Osman was no longer just a clan leader, he was a fully recognized sovereign. This incredible tenure lasted all the way until his death from gout in Bursa in 1326.
And this brilliantly illustrates the tactical steps of operational scaling. Once he had that official insignia of sovereignty, Osman didn't just rest on his laurels. He went to work establishing a concrete administrative and revenue model for his expanding enterprise. He minted his own coins. He had the Friday prayers recited in his name alone, completely solidifying his brand and authority. He appointed his younger son, Ala ad-Din Pasha, as his Grand Vizier, essentially making him the chief operating officer. And crucially for any state, he created a reliable revenue stream by levying the very first tax of 1 akshay.
And that brings us to our fifth and final scroll, the true leader's legacy.
As any wise chronicler will tell you, the ultimate measure of a manager's success isn't just what they control while they're in charge, it's what they leave behind. Consider what Osman built, an empire rising from Anatolia that would reign for 600 years across 3 continents, a truly world-altering enterprise. Yet, consider his personal inheritance when his end came in 1326 in Bursa. He left behind horse armor, a pair of high boots, a few sunjacks, a sword, a lance, a tirtez, a few horses, 3 herds of sheep, and salt and spoon containers. That is startlingly modest. The CEO of a massive, growing, sovereign state died with almost zero personal wealth. He prioritized his people, his poor, and his lasting legacy over his own pockets.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound provocation for today's leaders. Osman Gazi was a visionary, a brave warrior, a mentored student, and an absolute operational genius. But above all, he was a fair founder who built an empire for the future while keeping practically nothing but salt and spoon containers for himself. So my fellow builders, as you lead your teams, as you scale your operations, and write your own histories, when your tenure ends, what will your salt and spoon be? Will you be remembered for the wealth you hoarded, or the lasting 600-year legacy you built for others? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you next time.